So for episode one, I just wanted to give a little recap. It was nice to know that the character situation ahead of time, like between the chess game between Lelouch and the noble, the old man playing the nobleman, well, Lelouch, was a lot better than I originally thought it would be. And Lelouch hardly had to even barely do anything to win. It was quite simple. It was straightforward for him. My favorite part of the episode, particularly unquestionably, was the moment Lelouch gained his geass. Up until the story has been almost rooted in realism, merely with some altered, like probably like a little alternate history, sci-fi favoritism, but all good in establishing the setting and getting it set up to where we get to be introduced to the quick fire to severely obviously supernatural element angelic like girl that appears at the very end where they see the tank and they thought it was poisonous gas, which actually ended up being an actual girl with green hair being introduced. I'm still wondering what does she has to do with this what does she has to do with the plot going forward, and with her talking to him in his consciousness, in his head, with rapid visions of like some images of that's appearing to be Jupiter, and seeing a bunch of images and visions of nerves within Lelouch's brain, and somehow the Britannian Empire is watching with all keen interest without giving away the game at all. It piques my interest what exactly is happening here. I don't believe in any sort of Japanese royals were mentioned. So families such as like Kaguya Koto house exist. They don't seem to be nobles of any kind. So Sasui, I think his name is, dad, is the prime minister, the only head of state that was actually mentioned in the series so far. Well, in episode one. The existence of geass has caused other historical devastation across the series, I'm pretty sure, with Lelouch's ability to be able to command a person to do his bidding. So that right there is almost seemingly broken. I'm pretty sure they're going to have restrictions going forward with his ability, especially with his backstory about him when he was a kid and how his mom was murdered. So I know that he has a vendetta against the Brantelian, and that's probably why he's leaning more towards the rebellion than he is with his own family. So the entire royal line, obviously they elected a leadership, well, Japanese imperials. So I think his line, if the king doesn't lead, how can he expect the subordinates to follow? The only ones who should kill are those who are prepared to die. Kind of hits home, because it's like if you're going to be a leader and you're going to be waging war like they are doing in the ghettos, and the ghettos really doesn't deserve to be tarnished the way it is. It's like, what is the purpose of destroying the economy, like the structures of their buildings, if it's literally where people live? And how are they supposed to thrive, and how is they supposed to make the community and the cities better if they're just going to keep waging wars in them? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So like I said, Japan, obviously they transformed it into Area 11. That's what I remember so far. So all the original rights of Japanese pretty much got ripped from them. So it's basically they have to abide by their rules now. So I'm not too sure just yet of all the politics of political schemes that's going across. As I go forward, I'm probably going to learn a little bit more. I'm going to try to pay attention a little bit. So I'm not going to say too much. I'm just going to focus and see what I can get from here. Let me just start. I like this opening too. So for the meaning of the opening, I kind of did a little bit of research on Animo and found the meaning behind the song and how deep and symbolic it truly is kind of describing the lyrics about impactful moments in his life that can change him or even the world. Just because it gave the impression that Lelouch sings the lyrics, therefore he's in the middle of it. Listen to that. To me, that even through the little bit of lyrics, such as "always right next to me," again, the mean refers to him, and for the next episode, I'm definitely gonna do this in English. Would favor the theory that he mentions the biggest moments, either the invasion of Britannia or the fact that he joined the rebellion because of the war, makes no pauses, and can even change the kindest person. In some of the lyrics, he says, "Despite my hesitation, despite my worries and regrets." You gonna try to shoot? You would think it means he finally got his eyes open and made the decision to fight against his former home and country and father. Lelouch was the Prince of Britannia, but his mother died, and he asked his dad why didn't he protect her, and he even renounced to be the next king. So his father banished him and sent him to Japan, which is understandable why he has all this anger and hatred that's plagued to Lelouch, so much that the only thing that he wants is revenge. Comments, just to have a discussion question. One of them would be, how, in your opinion, does being a prince change Lelouch's position as a leader of the 11s? And the second one that I could think of is, how do you think the opposite between Lelouch and Sishui will develop? And the last one, should the 11s have been more careful if Lelouch offered to help them? If Lelouch were to reveal himself now as the prince, how do you think they would react? I think they would warm up to him a little bit, but his laughter during the ambush was a huge reason why he seemed a little static. He just wants to aspire to be useful to the Britannians and try to change it from the inside, like he told Lelouch in the previous episode. But it still doesn't explain why he didn't choose to go the alternative. Maybe it's somebody inside that he is hoping to change their mind. That's the only way. Because if he was treated badly, I don't see the real benefit of trying to strive and basically sacrifice time and effort to try to make something happen when you don't even have the position to change it yourself, and you're not even striving to be in the position to do so, only suggesting it, which is little to no action, because action is the best way to get things done. I can see Zatuli believing that the ends justify the means, and it doesn't make him a bad person. It doesn't make him a bad character. It's easy to see how he came from this point of view. he isn't 100% wrong. Remembering Lelouch's method isn't 100% correct either. Millions of innocent people would die in a war to destroy the Britannians. This is all despite the point, because you're underlining the most crucial and critical thinking process and skills of Zero. His only goal in life apparently is to be useful, but it's important for him to drive the force in his life, even if it sounds like a death wish. Every time he makes a decision, it seems like he's betraying his friends and country. It's an effort to get himself killed or put himself in a position of extreme danger. He overly hoped that the nature of humans, especially Britannians, and is already too invested in his dreams of changing the system from within. There's a good amount of people who think like this with currently in politics. A revolution that may be too risky or cause too much trouble or may seem hopeless. But I can understand what he thinks the way he does and how he came to that position on how to change Britannia from the inside out. To challenge the system outside of a few instances, I think normal for him to think of all these different scenarios. It's like playing bad cop that may be a good intention when joining the police force and end up scummy to be broken by the nature of the job. And 11. Everyone seems to know he is the son of the Prime Minister, but no one really seems to care. He doesn't get any special treatment for that, so he has little power or influence that. And generally, in the first episode, I didn't think twice about him actually having a high possibility of him getting executed on the spot if he didn't join the military, because what other option would he have? Plus, as you will see, that he does manage to achieve some impressive things for 11. He has a solid plan and what he wants to exactly do and how he wants to do it. If he were to accomplish it, it would work for Japan, but basically being free again, so change is possible theoretically. He's really strategizing, so he's planning ahead. That's what he's doing. So he hypnotized that guy ahead of time so he can get him to he get him to give him a signal right at that right moment for it to hypnosis to activate, because it doesn't seem like he was always. I see even further that not owning more powerful equipment is quite a problem for the terrorists, as they really have guns and RPGs. They are asleep when Lelouch grants them the Southern Lance in the stop train. This also shows when they face the Lance that a new and recent addition to the Britannian force, and they are going to need to get some bigger guns if they're going to be looking to make more progress. The best part of this battle through is the enemy's tracking screen and the G1 base Clovis and the General Bartolin. I absolutely have no idea why, but I absolutely adore these in the show. The moments of the troops on the holographic field and their sudden flash with a lost icon above them, that's just a thrill and just sets me off, because when Lelouch has the terrorists on the ground on a pitfall, all of the troops you see on the unit being lost on the screen, let's just say it's a hard time to contain myself, because it was Lelouch's intelligence and technical skills are ruthless, outlooking of treating people like pawns. rather than wade into the combat like your typical mechan protagonist. Lelouch surprisingly hangs back and takes the role of commander and observes the combat and the battle. I'm impressed with his ability to stay cool and collective and observe from a distance on a map and calling out the moves like it's a chess game. I really like the action in this episode, and I'm liking how things are going against Lelouch and Sishui. So far, I noticed a lot of chess imaginers in the first 2 episodes, and considering Lelouch was playing with the chess pieces when he was giving out instructions to the 11, I can't help but wonder if Lelouch was actually seeing the world around him as a chess game, now with a magical eye. I think Lelouch being a prince gives the 11s a slight advantage. He probably has some sort of knowledge of how things work, and even if the terrorists were a little outdated, I like to imagine he was able to do it well in this episode battle, because he was able to predict what his brother would be based on what he did when they played chess together. So for the most part, I'm going to probably do a voice audio over, because a lot of extra noise in the background, and then also to get my thought process flowing, because I'm still trying to learn everything that's going on in the episode. Took a moment to really think about it back. Honestly, I thought the 11s were kind of dumb for straight up trusting Lelouch, because I guess that sort of thing is understandable when you're in what basically is a life or death situation, given the circumstances of the 11s have shown for the Britannia so far. I can imagine they feel a little betrayed if they found out Lelouch was a prince. But it would probably be sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of thing. Wait, yeah, they're going to collapse them in? Yup. It happens every time. Get y'all all in one fell swoop. I can defeat the Britannia. I gotta get that pronounced right. Britannia. I'm loving this episode so far. How to say his name? Sisui? This makes me feel like I'm watching a NASA rocket launch all over again. The steps and preparations they have to go through to get this mecha machine operational is really surprising and astonishing. It really just shows the breakthroughs that they had in the coming generations, that they haven't not been slouching on getting the best engineers together to design and manufacture new weapons and new mechanical skeleton bodies for technical combat reasons. It's just really, really showing that the future is looking bright and confident for them, even with all this war and constant waging of damaging infrastructures, that they still have laboratories and they're still having enough data to collect, to refurbish and rebuild and remodel these mecha suits. to make them even better than the previous generation.
He just launching off. You know exactly what to do. He speeded through. Had to be at least going like 40 miles per hour.
Projectile energy blast, but he has an energy shield, which is kind of a game changer that probably has multiple times the more output than these older models can keep up with. So they can't penetrate his shield, and plus his firepower is on par with his shield multiple times and stronger. So they're really outgunned, outmatched in defense and in offense. So strategy and tactics is definitely key, and it's also crazy how Lelouch is just like weaklings, useless. But you know, he has to learn from this and be better prepared and better equipped with the right arsenal, the right weaponry and arsenal that you need for these type of
they can outmatch this
attacks. So definitely
this mobile
a learning curve
so
for
much
him
more
when he's dealing with
what they capable
the
of.
top of the line, the best of the best.
They can't react. They can't respond fast enough. The weaponry is outdated. It's not. Don't have enough firepower. No defense. Like I said, those old models are not hand-to-hand combat oriented anyway. So even if they try to fight back to a certain extent, like if they had some type of skill, it just won't work. They need some like lance, electrical laser lance.
It seems so far that he got adjusted to
that
the
still deals
I like how he
significant
just
damage.
finesses through and just hits him without too much of difficulty with it. Now we see Lelouch's true technical prowess, and it's so much that Clovis' plan is attack. I loved how Sishu was able to make his signature double roundhouse kick with his lance. The gap in technology and power is definitely showing in their mecha suits. So definitely reinforcements or definitely improvements needs to be made before they try to go for another assault. This is a learning curve for both sides, but mostly the terrorist side.
Yeah, those reflexes.
Also concerns me the lack of, care for, human life. Like, where's your humanity when you say things like that? So calm and, cold and just straightforward, just broad.
He was supposed to hold
it
the
just
front
really
line,
just shows what type of scientist he
cut
truly
their force
is and
over
what lengths he would go for his
retreat.
experiments. For the lack of, life, just for the sake of curiosity and science
Sisui
experiments.
is very talented, though.
And he doesn't really value, the chances of risking multiple people's lives in the process.
Natural talent.
Like, he really doesn't have his humanity on his sleeve. He don't really wear his heart on his sleeve. He's just very straight and broad and just disconnect when it comes to the value of human life, depending on your position. That's all he considers is numbers and positions. and the ghetto. They have no care for these people. These people are just like you. They are capable of the same things you are capable of, given the resources, time, and experience. That's all there ever was that was needed to fulfill those roles and qualifications and requirements. But they just don't get that through their heads, which is something that I really have a hard time figuring out their mindset and how they handle that situation that they're eventually going to have to address if they're going to keep conquering and destroying. Like, when is enough and when are they going to make their promises due and rebuild and take accountability for what they destroyed. So, the prince, or I think the highness, he seems pretty cool, calm and collected for someone who just been outmatched in strategy and tactics. For a guy who got a gun pointed at him, he's taking this defeat rather well until he sees the true identity of the person is utterly stunned and shocked of finding this out. But at the same time, what was he planning on doing if he decided to execute him right then and there?